What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Mike, Zach, and Dante. We are here as First Seed Sports. We are coming to you tonight with something a little bit different. I'm going to let Mike get into some of the details of it in just a second here. But as we go through here, we are going to be working on a PPR mock draft, specifically with the focus on a unique brand of player in this year's fantasy pool. Without further ado, Mike, I'm going to toss it over to you to intro. We'll go ahead and hop into the sleeper board, and we'll just go ahead and get started on this mock draft.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm excited to get going. We're going to split it up a little bit different today. I'm going to take the earlier portion of the draft here, as you can see on the draft board. We're going to have Dante in the middle, Zach at the end. But mainly, this video today, we are going to discuss bad NFL teams with some good hidden fantasy value on them. So this is going to be a little bit interesting. Obviously, all the teams that we're going to talk about today, Las Vegas has projected for under 7 wins on the year, aka bad football team. And thank God Kyle's not here with us today because the Lions are on that list. And I know, Zach, your Panthers are also on there. Me and Dante get the pass with the Cowboys and the Giants. So we'll
Yeah,
enjoy
it
this
kills
one a
you,
little
but
bit. All right, yeah. So let's kick this draft off here. Let's see what we got going on. In the meantime, the first team we're going to be discussing today, guys, is the Seattle Seahawks. Rated below 7 wins on the year. What are we thinking, and who are you guys looking at on that team that's going to be worth it to draft this year?
As a whole, that team looks garbaggio to me. But fantasy wise, we got to see with these bad teams. The game script is going to be so important. I feel like if a team is naturally just going to be down very early into the game, I'm going to be more inclined to go with running backs that are getting reception work, receivers that get a lot of those targets. I'm inclined to go notable players so far. I'd say Noah Fant. I think he's progressed a lot in the training camp. A lot of people are talking about him. Obviously, you have either players like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, but at the end of the day, it depends on who's throwing them the ball. And for those, I just don't feel comfortable with the options that they have right now. Is like Geno Smith, Drew Lock. I mean, those players just aren't really players I feel comfortable having throw my players the ball if I have DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett or Noah Fant. I would say Noah Fant just feels like I don't want to say like has the highest upside, but his ceiling just isn't clear yet. And if Drew Lock is the quarterback, they also have that rapport already. So, but I wouldn't feel comfortable drafting any of the players on that team, to be honest with you.
Any of them you would draft before round 5, you think?
I think for me, DK would have to fall to me at a discount. I don't know where his ADP falls right now at the moment. Let
It
me
is
take a
in the
look real quick.
3rd round as of right now. And
Yeah,
Tyler
if he's
Lockett's
falling,
is towards the end of the 7th.
That's too early for me. 3rd round. I don't know. You
if
can get like a Michael Pittman there.
yeah,
You get T. Higgins there. Those are all more credible options to me.
if Metcalf is going to fall to me in the 5th round, I'm going to take him happily because he's probably my second or third receiver at that point, and he's got wide receiver 1 upside. So I love that. But to kind of look elsewhere, I also really love Rashad Penny in this offense. I think he's got great value this season. I think people are a little scared of the fact that Ken Walker is going to come in and is going to have some role on this team. But I think people are underestimating how big of a deal Rashad Penny is going to be. Think about how great he was last season. He was single-handedly the reason that some people won their fantasy football leagues. So
Right.
for him to come in, and I mean, he's got like a borderline 10th round ADP. You can get him late in drafts. So to be able to get a starter on a team that wants to run the ball and has a track record of running the ball, I think that that's just fantasy gold, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it's really surprising. Sleeper right now, Ken Walker's ADP is about a round ahead of Rashad Penny. Very, very interesting. I no matter how I draft, what kind of team I have, if I'm headed into the 10th round and they're both on the board, I'm going to take Rashad Penny. He's going to start the season. Walker will have a role, and I think Walker is a freak athlete, might even be a better running back than Penny. We'll see. I just am not taking Kenneth Walker over Penny this year. It's not happening. I can't see myself doing it. Rashad Penny literally is coming off of, like Zach said, a fantasy championship winning end of the year last year. So there is absolutely no reason that you should be taking a rookie over him, especially a rookie that was not the first running back taken, wasn't really in the early round. So, yeah, that's just very surprising to me. I'm going to take Penny. I'm going to take the starter. And, if I wanted to go Walker 2 rounds later just to get that extra help or make me feel comfortable, I'll do that at least.
Well, according to
yeah.
Fantasy Pros right now, they I didn't mean to cut you off there. They 5 days ago said that Rashad Penny is projecting to be the primary back and is going to see 20 plus carries a game to open the season. So that's That's really all the security you need, I think.
Yeah, and that's really been Carroll's philosophy for years now. He wants to get his league guy the ball. He's got to establish the run game, and Penny's going to be able to do it. Health is a question. How good Kenneth Walker is another small factor to play in there. But yeah, Penny's the guy, man. I'll happily take him in the 10th round. I'm assuming that Rashad Penny on most teams at the earliest will be like a RB3. At the latest, you could have him on the bench to start the year. But I mean, why not? The dude was literally putting up top 5 running back numbers to end the year last year. So yeah, that's a big one for the Seahawks. Dante, you had mentioned Noah Fant as well. We just did a segment this morning where we talked about some late round tight end value, and Fant was one of them. We really love Fant going into this year. We kind of talked about his athleticism a little bit, the spot he's in. We're really excited for him as well. I think Fant is another one of those past the 10th round kind of guys on a bad football team that you would take. And then you got DK and Lockett. Lockett is going 4 rounds after DK. And I think that's a little bit far-fetched. I think, like Zach said, DK is more of a 5th round guy for me. I'd be comfortable with him as my wide receiver 2, definitely not wide receiver 1, with just the uncertainty of you don't know really how good that team is going to be. Are they even going to hold up, But yeah, I kind of do like that Lockett value a little bit later. 7th, 8th round sounds about right for where he should go this year. But I love that value. I like Lockett is just that guy that he's going to have some dud weeks, but he's going to have those boom weeks, and it's going to look a little bit different this year. But I am willing to take that risk with him if I'm getting him at a discount a couple rounds after Metcalf is going. So.
I guess the problem I have with just this in general is that it's a completely different. I feel like it's a completely different offense now that Russ isn't there. Like, we're basing all of these, projections or previous stats on the fact that Russ was throwing the ball primarily. So I don't know. Like, I can't say for sure. I mean, with Drew Lock, maybe he treats DK Metcalf like Devontae Adams, and he gets like 10 to 12. Targets or receptions a game, we just don't know how it's going to translate on the field. We can only, and of course, this is all a gamble to begin with, but for that reason, I need to see who's going to be throwing him the ball, how that offense works. I mean, they're going to be down early, I would imagine, for the majority of the games. So it's just going to force them to throw the ball more. That's why I have hesitancy for like Rashad Penny or Bryce Hall, right? That's the other running back. Kenneth Walker. Yeah, I just feel I have hesitancy for both of those players just because I don't know how the game script's going to go if they're down. If they're down early, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like they can of course get the carries, but if the defense is going to know that they're going to be running the ball early and just load the box, it's not going to really be any beneficial to anyone, really.
Right. Yeah, and that's going to be an interesting one going into the year. Some you're going to have to play some risk management with, and especially this next team that we're going to talk about, which is the Falcons. Um, they're actually projected to be the worst team along with the Texans this year. What do you guys think about the Falcons? And a better question for you is, would you be comfortable with Mariota in redraft league?
I think personally, I think if I'm going to take a flyer on any late quarterback, I think he's one of my favorites to do so on because he has that unique running upside or rushing upside that a lot of other quarterbacks in that range don't have. You know, you look at other guys like Mitch Trubisky, or you look at guys like
Matt Ryan.
a Jimmy Garoppolo or a Matt Ryan. That's a great example. Yeah. And those guys just don't offer that same rushing upside that a guy like Marcus Mariota does. Now, sure, he's got a little uncertainty where he could potentially lose his job, and might be overtaken by Desmond Ritter, who's also there. But you kind of have to wait and see and see what comes of it. But I personally do like him as a backup quarterback, especially if you're in a deeper league.
Yeah, definitely. I would say as well, I would almost go on record to guarantee that Desmond Ritter will be picked up by every single fantasy league at some point this year off the waiver wire. I think eventually he has the potential to take over that job. But yeah, that rushing upside from Mariota, man, I mean, that's a discount. You're getting him easily in the 11th, 12th round or later. So there's no rush to him. You can kind of just sit back and wait.
Yeah.
On another note, what are you guys thinking? What is your mindset with the Falcons running backs this year? If I'm not mistaken, it's Cordero, and they have the rookie there as well. Who I'm
Mike Davis too, right?
No, Mike Davis is gone. Mike Davis is now in Baltimore. He is like the third or fourth string running back in Baltimore.
Right.
So how the mighty have fallen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I like Algier a lot, though. I think because Cordero's getting older, he's always going to have the spot to begin of the season. But I think Algier has massive potential to usurp his role towards the end of the year. He's just got so much potential. And I also I hate to pivot, but I hate to do like a hot take. But I think that Drake London might have a better fantasy year than Kyle Pitts. I feel confident in that. I just think that Drake London obviously has it's his first year, so like defenses don't know how to prepare for him. They're going to be focused on Kyle Pitts, and I think just in terms of ability, I mean, he was in USC. He was with Michael Pittman and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he still showed teams and recruiters that he was. I don't want to say he was the better receiver out of the two, but he had potential to be just as good. So I'm very high on Drake London in that offense. But yeah, going back to the running backs, I feel like Algier has a massive potential, and I would take him in the late rounds. Like if he was your last round, I'd take him just as a handcuff.
For me, he's very similar to Rashad Penny, where when I get to those late rounds, I'm looking for guys that have starter potential. And I do think that Algier has starter potential because the Falcons have been very vocal in wanting to limit Cordero's touches out of the backfield. I think they want to transition him more towards being a true wide receiver again, like he used to be. Obviously, going to be one of those trick guys where they're giving him the ball in space and things like that. But I think that Algier is going to carve out a role as the workload or the workhorse back. They also brought in Damien Williams, who was in Chicago last year and played some good minutes when David Montgomery went down. So that's something to keep an eye on too. But
yeah,
in the 11th, 12th round of your draft, Algier is a great value.
Yeah, I'd agree. I liked him coming out of college. The Falcons obviously have some high hopes from him. Really love him too. So yeah, I think those are the guys we're looking at. Value on bad teams. Obviously, you're going to have Pitts, who's going right around the third, fourth tight end, take it off the board this year. And you're going to have Drake London, the rookie, coming in. Is there any other receivers on that team before we move on that you would even give a shot or look at all in those later rounds?
Really, really late. Olamide Zacchaeus. That's just kind of you're hoping that someone who's proven in that offense is going to have some sort of role. With London maybe having to figure his way or find his footing a little bit in the offense. But outside of him, I can't even really tell you any other notable names. I'm looking at their depth chart right now. Drake London, Kaderil Hodge. He was with the Browns for a little bit. Brian Edwards. That's a memorable name. He was obviously the Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver for a little while, so he's another one to kind of keep an eye on. I don't know. There's value to be found there somewhere, but I'm not gonna waste a draft pick on it in August. I'll figure that out on the waiver wire in October or November down the road.
Right, right. At that point, I believe, just like you said, those are some waiver wire guys at that point that you'll be worrying about more towards the end of the season. So, yeah, those are the guys we're looking at for the Falcons. Another team here, Zach, I'm going to let you take this one. We're talking about the Panthers here. What do you think's going on with the Panthers, and who are you liking? Who are you excited to watch this year on your team?
Well, it's hard not to like DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore has become the highlight of this team. You would think I'm crazy a couple years ago if I didn't say Christian McCaffrey, who I see Mike you have taken third overall there. And you have to, quite frankly, you have to take him as a top 3 pick because if he's healthy all season, he's the best player in fantasy football, hands down. But I think DJ Moore, consistency wise, is kind of what you're looking for from this offense. He's a target hog where he's going to get the ball and he's going to come out with his 50, 60, 70, 80 yards a game, basically every single game. And you're going to walk away with 10 to 15 fantasy points and you're going to be happy. Outside of those two, obviously there's going to be a quarterback competition during training camp this year between Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. Nothing really to write home about there. I quite honestly think Baker's going to walk away with a job, which will be good for this offense because I still think he's a leader and I think he can lead an offense. But tight end wise, Ian Thomas and Tommy Tremble, neither of them are going to be relevant. As a 2 and a 3 receiver, you have Terrace Marshall and Robbie Anderson, who again are waiver wire guys at best. Maybe you take a flyer on Robbie in the late rounds. But one person I really do kind of want to point out, and with Christian McCaffrey's injury history, it's not Chuba Hubbard from last year because I thought he was very replaceable, but it's actually Deontay Foreman from the Titans. He signed a 1-year contract or a 2-year contract with the Panthers this year to be the backup running back. And I think that if it gets to him, which, knock on wood, it doesn't, but I could realistically see it happening, he could have some huge value. And he's a 14th, 15th, 16th round dart throw that could potentially turn into a starting running back at some point in your season. So I love Deontay Foreman, especially really, really late.
Right. Yeah, that's that. I feel like there's been a huge shift in ADP from those two recently. That's kind of like thrown people off between Foreman and Hubbard. So yeah, Foreman, I think 100% is going to be that guy. He showed flashes last year a little bit too. So yeah, I like him going into the year. Kind of like what you said, you got McCaffrey, you got Moore. Most likely all the other assets on the team are going to be waiver wire guys. It's just so hard to keep in mind that McCaffrey demands so many targets on that offense. And that's just going to take away from everybody else. It's an absurd amount. No other team in the league gives the running back targets like the Panthers do.
Really, I would say, Mike, it's only room enough for one other sustainable receiver. Otherwise, you're going to get guys that are giving you donuts, on certain given weeks. Like, I'm comfortable with McCaffrey, I'm comfortable with Moore, but outside of that, I don't really trust anyone.
Right, and why take the risk,
Given the fact that McCaffrey is going number 1 or 1 or 2 in most leagues, do you guys feel comfortable that at the end of the year he'll produce that value given his injury history? Do you feel comfortable in him like playing a majority of the games this upcoming season? If you had to put money on it,
dude, I believe he had some hamstring issues, so I don't believe. I think there's a higher chance that he does not play all 17 games than him playing 17 games.
So is it worth it,
Mike,
then?
What if the number What if the number was 12? Are you happy with that number?
I am
including the
happy with
playoffs,
12. I
including
am happy with
your
12.
fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, 2 years in a row with an injury. You've already heard stories about him reaching out. I believe it was Marshall Falk. He's trying to stay healthy. I think that's his main focus for this year. So, yes, I don't think you're going to see freak McCaffrey all the time. I think they might lighten his workload just a little bit, but I think his main focus is health this year. So I would say I would be 85. Let's go 86% confident that McCaffrey is going to give you 12 games this year.
What
That's
was
what
that
I'm thinking.
1% bump? What was that 1% bump? Just
The
out of curiosity.
1% bump was literally because I've had McCaffrey a few years, and that was like the homer extra percentage there. So just because I love the guy, But yeah, the Panthers are going to be an interesting team. We kind of covered that, though. We got DJ Moore, McCaffrey as your two values. Everybody else you're going to be maybe picking up, dropping week to week throughout the year. So, yeah, that not a bad one. I believe that the Panthers have the least amount of fantasy assets out of all the teams we covered so far.
Yeah, agreed.
I got another question.
Yeah, let's hear it.
If you do pick McCaffrey, at what round are you taking Deontay Foreman?
Probably no later than the 7th round, I would say, personally, because that 86% confidence, I think, goes to 40 if I draft Foreman after the 7th round. I would not be comfortable having McCaffrey and not having his handcuff. That I feel like is a no-go this year. Obviously 2 years of that now, so that would be a no-go for me. But moving on here, we're going to crack down on the Chicago Bears, another team that is projected to be under 7 wins. We have some fantasy value on this team, I feel like, so some decent ones at least. What are your guys' thoughts on it? And are you taking any Bear this year before round 6 in a redraft league?
Why don't we each cover one player from the Bears offense? Just give our thoughts. What do you think?
Okay.
You go with that?
Yeah, no, I like
right.
that. Go ahead, kick us off here.
I'll take Justin Fields. I feel like that's the easy pick to take here, but Justin Fields, he's up against it this year. That's the way that I'm going to put it, because his line is horrible. They took away his best receiver. Yeah, he's going to be under a new head coach. That's probably the one bright spot, but it's still going to be a difficulty for a second-year receiver. The couple good things, positive things he has going for him, he's got rushing upside. He can throw the ball. He has a great rapport with Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet, his tight end. So I love all of those things. But I can't find myself to take him in the later rounds just because I don't trust this offense. Long story short.
My God, I'm actually going to go with a late rounder who I think you should keep your eye on, and that's going to be Khalil Herbert. I think with David Montgomery, he has shown to have that injury bug. And with Khalil Herbert, when he had a chance to get the bell cow roll, we're looking at Green Bay week 6, 19 carries, 97 yards, touchdown, 19 points in PPR. Tampa Bay, only running back to have over 100 yards rushing against the Bucks. That was Khalil Herbert, 18 points. So when he has the opportunity, he is shown to be incredibly valuable for that offense. And I think with a new coach coming in, with a new coaching system coming in, I think that's just going to provide more opportunities for Khalil Herbert. I would, if you were going to get David Montgomery, if you were going to take that chance, which I wouldn't personally, just because he is shown to be a great back. But again, that injury bug is something that, for me, I know we shouldn't focus on it primarily because that's such a random thing. But I just look at the history. I look at the history of players. That's a reason why Christian McCaffrey, I brought up that whole thing. And I can't, if I'm betting money, if I were to put money on these players, which is what you're doing, I just feel more safe having that handcuff for David Montgomery as opposed to taking a J.D. McKissick or a Naeem Hines, someone that, regardless of who, like each week, their role is limited severely because they are just you're relying on the receptions more than anything at that role. So I would feel more comfortable taking Herbert at that position just because, for that reason alone.
I like Herbert. Yeah, I think he's going to have an impact. So yeah, I would say my guy on the Bears is going to be Cole Kmet. We did cover that a lot this morning, so be sure to check out our last video that we dropped this morning. But Cole Kmet's my guy on that offense. So those are the three guys we're really tuning in there. Let's move on to the Lions. We got some good value here as well. Star receiver from last year, star running back from last year, both very young guys. They added some new guys. If you had to pick one guy to sum up that you absolutely love this year on a bad football team, the Detroit Lions, who are you guys going with?
I'm going to mention Swift, so neither of you guys can say Swift. Swift is quite possibly going to be a top 5 player in fantasy. He's awesome. But I don't think we need to waste too much time on him because we're talking about hidden value here. And for me, I think the hidden value is going to be Jameson Williams, the rookie wide receiver that they drafted. That dude is electric. He is just lightning in a bottle. And when he's on the field, good things happen. Now, the key thing is when he's on the field, he is hurt. He's coming off of an ACL tear in January's college football playoff game. So you're not going to see him probably until, I'm going to say, week 9, 10, 11, somewhere later in your season. So if you draft him, I would look to see that you have an IR spot where you could stash him right away. But I do love him, and I think he's going to be a boom player down the fantasy stretch.
I love him too. That was my guy. Dante, who are you going with on the Lions here?
I mean, not a lot of options here, but you can go with Amon-Ra. I would just feel comfortable going with TJ at this point. I don't feel comfortable taking him or any of the tight ends just at the value that they're at the rounds that they're getting taken. But if TJ Hawkinson, because the tight end position is so limited and scarce, he's like, I would say out of like the tier 2 tight ends, he's like after him, it's just downhill. Looking at the first 2 weeks, he got the targets from Goff. He was getting the attention, 25 points against San Francisco, and then 20 the next week. But there was a drop off, and for the next 3 weeks, he didn't score over 10 points. Actually, he had three against Baltimore, 8 against Chicago, and 4 against Minnesota. So extremely volatile player. He's going to have the weeks where he gets you what you need, but I just that offense and Detroit in general, I would feel uncomfortable unless you had like a high upside player with like Amon-Ra that can get you like the points with his speed and deep threat capabilities. So that TJ Hawkins is my pick, but I don't feel super confident in it, to be honest with you.
No, I can't blame you either. Swift is another one of those running backs that demands a lot of targets on that team. And he's going to continue to do so in that style of offense. So it's really hard to deviate from him, Amon-Ra, and Jameson Williams. So I'm actually going to go with a player that I don't want to draft on that team. Because I think we covered all the value there, and that's going to be Jamal Williams. That's a guy I don't want to touch. We saw Swift get hurt, and they signed guys left and right to come in that backfield and run the football. So that's one of those guys I am not drafting this year. I don't think it's a necessary handcuff. Moving on, Houston Texans. This is a rough one. They're projected to be the worst team in the league this year. Is there any hidden value on the Texans, guys? Let me hear
it. Personally, for me, I don't think so. It's a lot of guessing games in the Texans offense. You have guys like Nico Collins at receiver, who is probably my favorite out of all of the offensive weapons for the Texans. I think he potentially has the chance to be, I don't know, a flex play week in and week out. And he's not being drafted right now. So to be able to get that, I like that. But you have names like Brevin Jordan at tight end, who's probably not going to be drafted as well. The running back or the backfield is really murky. It's a competition between I believe his name is Damian Pierce and Marlon Mack. So you don't know who's going to be the starter there. Realistically, Davis Mills is a great streaming option, I think, but I don't think he should be drafted either. Realistically, it comes down to Brandon Cooks being the only value.
Yeah, no, and that's hard to argue there. He really is going to be that main guy. So I think what else is pretty important too with that team. I think the wide receiver Mechie, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Mechie, yeah, Mechie.
Mechie, my guy Mechie. I'm gonna come up with a nickname for all these rookies soon. But yeah, I believe he has some talent. He was very, very talented coming out of college. He would be one of my sleeper values. Again, not being drafted, definitely not being drafted in a redraft. I don't care if you have 20 rounds, he's not being taken. But I think he's a guy that can make some noise. The team's going to be bad, and they're going to be in situations where they got to air it out. God forbid something happens to Brandon Cooks. I feel like he could step in and make a good rookie impact in his first year here. So that's one of the guys I'm excited for.
Listen, if you put a gun in my head and you forced me to pick another player out of the players that you just mentioned that had any potential, I have to rock with Davis Mills, man. I mean, he's shown that in certain weeks, he can provide that elite fantasy value. I'm looking at New England, week 5, 30 points. 30 points, 312 yards, 3 touchdowns. Against New England,
he's a dude.
That's pretty good.
He's a dude. Yeah.
The Rams, another high, their secondary is filthy. 23 points, 310 yards passing, 2 tuds, 1 pick, but it's the Rams. What can you expect? And then he also has his duds, -5. -5 against Buffalo. I guess the point here is obviously this guy is not going to be someone that is going to be taken even in your last round. I think in most leagues he's going to be someone you can pick up easily on waiver wire. But if we're comparing him to Sam Darnold, if we're comparing him to I won't even say Matt Ryan, even though he's getting picked in the late rounds. I feel way more confident in Matt Ryan, but he's one of those guys that if you're in need of a quarterback and there's no one else on the waiver wire, Davis Mills.
Hey, and I want to stop you right there because we're moving on to our last team here, and I feel like there's a quarterback on this team that fits in the same category as Mills, and that is going to be the New York Jets and Wilson. What do you guys think about the MILF lover Wilson, and will he be relevant in PPR leagues this year?
Look, book it. I think Zach Wilson is going to be a top 20 quarterback. I know that's not a huge thing to say, but I like Zach Wilson. He has some good targets to throw the ball to this year. He's got about 50 tight ends on this team. He's got Garrett Wilson. He's got Corey Davis. He's got Elijah Moore. He's got a pass-catching running back in Michael Carter. He's got a tank of a running back in Breece Hall now. He's got an offense around him. They've been building the line. If it's not now, it's going to be never for Zach Wilson. So I like him. I like him a lot.
Yeah, no, I one of my hot takes, we did a segment last year for First Seed. One of my hot takes was having him as a top 15 QB in his rookie year, and that did not work out. But I feel confident in saying that he could do that this year, possibly. He could possibly sneak in there. He's got a rough list of guys to climb there to get to that top 15. But I could definitely see him playing around 20, something like that this year. He's got the weapons. He's going to have that tandem in the backfield that's going to help him out so much. Hopefully they know how to pass block. That's the main thing as well. But yeah, they did have a pretty good draft this year. They filled a lot of gaps on their team, both defensively, offensively. So they're going to be one of those interesting teams. In terms of hidden value, I still think that the narrative right now on Breece Hall is a little too high. I think he's being drafted way too high. My hidden value is Michael Carter, man. I don't see him being a starter on your fantasy team at all, but why not have him on the bench? If something happens, you're talking about Michael Carter that was a target machine last year, was catching everything out of the backfield, and I think he's still going to have that role over Breece Hall. I don't believe Breece Hall is built for that, and he can. We've seen it in college, but he's not. That's not going to be his NFL role, is my guess. So my hidden talent on that team, hidden value is going to be Michael Carter. You can probably get him, I would say, round 12 or later, most likely. And he's one of those hidden handcuff guys that I kind of like, you know. I don't even believe I'm looking at our board right now. I don't believe he went in our draft. We did stop at 10, but there are some notable handcuffs there that went before him, and he's one of those sneaky ones. He's definitely one to keep an eye out
Mike,
for.
he did go. He went in 9. He went with the 7th pick of the 9th round, right in the middle of the draft board there.
There he is. Okay. Yep, he did go. Okay. Yeah, not that,
right.
that makes sense.
Gordon.
Right around those other handcuffs like Melvin, Kareem, Tony Pollard actually went 2 rounds before all of them. But obviously he's one of the more notable guys there. But
yeah.
Dante, any hidden value on the Jets this year?
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at Garrett Wilson. I think I'm just big on wide receivers, especially in this previous class, with London Drake and or Drake London, I'm sorry, and especially Garrett Wilson, because the game script, and I keep going back to that, but it's important with these teams because they're just going to be throwing the ball more because they're going to be down by so much. I just feel like with that reasoning, you could expect more opportunities for wide receivers like Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, and Garrett Wilson. There's really not much. I can't speak on his ability. I mean, he was in a crowded Ohio State wide receiver room, and he still managed to get 12 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards. I think that's super impressive and speaks to how comfortable they were using him. But it's hard to gauge where he's going to end up at the end of the year. But if I had to just take like a late flyer, Garrett Wilson is someone that I'd look into.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm looking at the board here before we wrap up, and we did talk about a lot of guys today on bad fantasy teams that have good value. And I believe out of the entire draft, the first one I'm seeing that we mentioned, I believe is Kenneth Walker right in the middle there. And it looks like, Dante, you took him there in the 6th round. That is probably, I believe, out of all the guys we mentioned, I believe he is the first one that was taken here.
You have the only other one, Mike, is I see actually 2. I see Breece Hall up ahead of him at 4.9, and I see DK at 4.12.
Okay, you're right. I just saw that as well. I was kind of counting DK out, but I do see Breece Hall there. Yeah, Breece Hall, to me, that's way too early in the 4th round. I don't know what you're expecting out of him, to be honest, to be that team's RB1. But yeah, definitely some guys there. We mentioned a lot of guys today with some hidden value. Is there one that stands out more than the rest before we wrap it up here to you guys?
In this draft, or
so not necessarily in the draft. Out of all the guys we talked about today that have that bad NFL team, good fantasy value, which one's kind of your favorite? Are you looking for any of them this year? Or are these guys that you're kind of just like, I'm going to do my thing in draft, and if they slide to me, they slide?
I'll hop in. I'll do mine first. I think mine is going to be one of the first guys we mentioned. That's Rashad Penny. I'm kind of tipping my hand a little bit here, but I'm going to be looking for him in every single draft. I think that he's going to kind of put me over that hump in the first couple weeks, and maybe if I'm taking a guy like J.K. Dobbins, or I'm taking a guy like I don't know, maybe even Aaron Jones, who's still trying to figure out what the balance is going to be, and there might be some up and down weeks. I think Penny is really going to kind of fill in there nicely, and he's going to be a quality starter for the beginning of the season. So I'm going to say Rashad Penny is probably my favorite.
I'm just gonna go Drake London. I just think the upside is there. He's there. Kyle Pitts is the only like receiving option at this time besides Drake London. Um, Obviously, the offense we don't know how Mariota is gonna be at the quarterback, but I just think that again he just has tremendous upside. So for a rookie.
I love those two. I know for a fact I will be looking for both of them in my leagues as well. Mine's going to be Jameson Williams. I kind of had a bad experience passing over Jamar Chase last year, and it kind of scarred me, and I will never skip over a talented receiver again. Obviously, his situation's different. Jamar Chase got drafted to a Super Bowl contender, and Jameson did not. And he is stuck with a guy that made it to the Super Bowl, but is definitely no contender and won't be for any time soon. So,
but hey,
yeah,
if I would have told you the Bengals were going to go to the Super Bowl at this time last summer, you would have smacked me in the face.
I was thinking the same thing. We all would have told each other to just quit on the spot. We would have stopped doing fantasy forever. That was not even in the playbook last year. I don't think anybody saw that coming except Bengals fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a mystery year. So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up here. We got a lot of good value on these bad fantasy teams. Most of these guys you're drafting later in your draft, and it's just something to keep an eye on. I hope we gave you some good points today. Some good reasons to look at these guys later on. You never know.
I think you might call some of these guys underdogs. Would you say? And speaking of underdogs,
Dante had something to say about those underdogs.
No, Underdog Fantasy, a great platform. Place bets. Right now, they've got a couple tennis bets, a couple tennis props going on. U.S. Open's going to be in in a month or two. It is a. Let me see. Hold on. Sorry.
Yeah, Underdog new promotions.
Yeah, they got the promotions. It's comfortable. It's weird because in Underdog, it feels like you're going against players that like know what they're doing more than any other platform. So like you'll get weird picks that seem weird early, like Michael Pittman in the second round. But it's because these guys study this and know what they're doing. So if you want to go against people that are doing this for a living almost, kind of like borderline cringe, I would feel if you want to get like brush up on your skills, I would definitely tackle the Underdog. They match on your first deposit up to $100. So if you put $100 in with code First Seed,
down below us, right?
Yep.
Down
they
there.
They will match your deposit up to $100. So get in there. Maybe you'll go against one of us or someone that again no lives and stuff. So
hey, go win some money. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Any closing remarks, guys?
Nothing for me. I think that there's plenty of value. Think about it tonight when you fall asleep.
Hell yeah. All righty, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you for the next video.
See you guys.
Peace.